In the previous video, I showed how we created a generic inventory item for 15W40 motor oil and added the 2 containers of motor oil I have on board. Even though they are in separate locations, they are now grouped under this single generic. There was 8 quarts total within the 2 containers, and so now my generic item shows a quantity of 8 quarts. Now, having created this generic inventory item, how would I use it? Well, the principal use is tracking consumables. And in this case, I want to do it from within a kit. So I go to the groups page and I select the Northern Lights service part kits. My Northern Lights generator uses 15W40 motor oil. And I go to the contents. I don't have any motor oil in that, so I want to add it. So then I go to the item page. Now I'll use in this case, the category of lubricant, because that's also the category I created for that generic. I search the database, and here I have my motor oil. Notice in the list here it identifies the items that have been found from the search that are generic. In this case, my motor oil, it puts a generic label on that item. So now I call it up. So here is the item, and for the Northern Lights service parts, I want to reserve 3 quarts of this motor oil. So I add the item, and now if I go back to the contents, here's my motor oil. And again, it shows that I've got 5 quarts available in addition to the 3 quarts required for the Northern Lights generator. Now, one of the principal ways this gets used is when you're logging an oil change. So let's go down to, I select my generator as a maintenance system, click on the update log, okay, and I want to do a change. I want to record the fact that I changed the lubricant oil on this day. Now, what I want to do then is update the parts usage. So I go to the parts usage form, I select the 15W40 motor oil. Now this comes up with another form, going back to the manage inventory items. So what I do is I click on, I use 3 quarts, so I want to change that item, and I take that down to 0. So now I've used those 3 quarts. Close that out. I'm back in the update parts usage. You notice on the 15W40 motor oil, I still got a reserve of 3 with 5, which means there's 2 quarts still available within the onboard quantity over and above the reserve for that. So then I click done, and I can save the task data, which means I've saved the information on that, but I've also updated the inventory. If I go back now to the enter edit page, I want to search on generics, so I click the item as generic. Here's my 15W motor oil, and you notice now I only have 5 quarts in here in quantity because I've used 3. I still have the reserve of 3 reserved for the Northern Lights service parts kit. So that's how I would use the generic to track the quantity of a consumable such as motor oil.